So, welcome everybody to Onino's September 2023 update. I don't know how many we had, but it's starting to pile up. In November, it's going to be 2 years. Suspense. So thank you very much for joining again. Thank you very much for taking the precious time in the evening. And I would say, let's jump right into it. We'd like to start, as always, with a shout out to the community. And this time it's 4 people that have really stood out with a lot of activity throughout any channel, mainly Twitter in this case. So thank you very much to Bright Gibbs, Candy Jesus, Onino74, great name, and Colby Artelli. Sorry, I hope that's more or less fine. Usernames aren't easy to tell. So yeah, let's start with what is Onino. You know this section. It's just for the new members. I think the ones that have been here for a long time know exactly what Onino is. Still want to jump right into it. Onino is one part Onigraph and the other part tokenized fundraising. And if we start with Onigraph, it's a little bit easier. Onino mainly is a company that is creating a blockchain, or to be more exact, a graph-based blockchain. So using graph technology, blockchain technology, and are focusing on 3 main aspects that we do differently than other networks, because we are convinced that those are the ones that are going to lead Onino and the blockchain technology into the real world, being used by normal projects and normal companies each and every day. And those main 3 aspects are, on one hand, scalability. And we are building a network so that it's scalable in a much more positive way than what blockchains are. So not getting slower and more expensive the more traffic you have on there, but rather quicker and less expensive. The second point is identities. On one hand, because of regulation, on the other hand, because it really just makes sense to be able to identify actors on the network. And the third one is privacy. Because if you talk with many companies, one of the main aspects is also always data privacy and what happens with data. And this is a main aspect that we are trying to solve, or that we are actually solving, is how to have private data for companies that don't want to disclose everything on a blockchain network. So just in short, it's a graph-based blockchain focusing on privacy, identity, and scalability. And this network, when it's created after the testnet in the mainnet phase, of course needs users, developers, people that use it, projects that use it. And this is what leads us to tokenized fundraising, because we have gathered expertise through raising funds for Onino and want to bring this to other companies. It's been a rough road through German legislation and many things, and there is a lot of value that we can deliver to help companies fund themselves, just like we did with Onino. And we have 4 customers already, 4 or 5, I'm not even sure. Let's see what the official numbers are. And we're helping those on a daily basis to essentially, right from the start, integrate a token into a business model, which is a point where we're very specific and strict as well. We see, or we look for projects where it really makes sense to integrate a token. So it's not about integrating a token at any price. It's really integrating tokens just where it makes sense. And when that's possible, then we help them to integrate the token in the business model. It's kind of a company building like help that we offer them. So we help them really from creating the company, if they need to do so, all the way up to being able to do a sale. So business model, fundraising, financial planning, all those things that are needed. And those customers, on one hand, are able to kick off their projects and start with them and fund them. And on the other hand, which is a great thing, in long term, are going to be using the Onigraph. So it really goes hand in hand, Onigraph and tokenized fundraising. And long story short, that's what we're doing with Onino. And without further ado, let's jump in the next one, which is the Onino Blockchain Testnet Validator Program registration opened in October. And I guess that's Lucas.
Yes. After we basically revisited the whole development roadmap in the last community update, we will now have a quite short update on the blockchain. It's more of a teaser of things to come, especially with us approaching the testnet in the last quarter of this year. And you've seen it here written out. The validator program registration opens up in October, and we will be releasing much more information when it comes to the testnet with the start of October. We are still not 100% sure on the format, but most likely you can expect a series of blog posts describing the whole testnet phase, what we want to achieve, such as testing different parameterizations in the network and the overall performance, and the just testing out edge cases and applications running on the application layer, as well as validators onboarding and validator offboarding of the network. So you can take this as a more of informational statement from our point, that we will be releasing a lot of information in the coming weeks in regards to the testnet, our process of doing the test, and how you can be eligible to take part in the testnet, either as a validator or just a simple user of the network, and maybe even start trying out and building applications, decentralized applications directly on our testnet, and then might be eligible for onboarding that early to the ONI graph once we basically launch our mainnet. But you can look forward to the October. There will be a lot of information flow out of Onino into your heads on how you can participate in helping us secure our network and test the network's capabilities.
Thank you very much, Lucas. That's major news. Next one is the pre-sale framework by Onino, and that's going to be Kai.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. So we thought that today we could also give you a little bit behind the curtain insights on what's going on and how we are building things at Onino, basically. So we thought that today we're going to give you little insights, rather from a technical side. Sorry for all the non-techies out there, about the Onino pre-sale framework. So first of all, what do we mean by the pre-sale framework? By that, we basically mean the application, so to say, like the web app that we are using for our tokenized fundraising customer projects in order to conduct their token pre-sale, so to say. Namely, this is, so to say, the underlying technology of the Cadaico pre-sale app that most of you have already seen by now. This is basically the pre-sale framework which has been adjusted to our first customer, Cadaico. In this session, we're going to dive a little bit into how this thing is actually built, what we thought behind the single components, and how they are set up. So it might be an interesting glance for some of you guys. So let's jump right in. So first of all, the app is, as all of our apps, is built with Next.js and TypeScript, as we are just convinced that this is the best web development framework and combination that you can get out there. We are personal big fans. Please don't be offended if you're an Angular fan or a Vue.js fan. That's always also out fine as well. But we are building with React and TypeScript as for any of our applications. So we thought we'd just walk you through all the components that this pre-sale framework, so to say, has to offer at the example of our first customer, Cadaico. So what you see right now here in the beginning is the sign-up form. Quite obvious. That's the first step always to get people onboarded. For that, we use Firebase authentication as well as Firebase data storage. That has several reasons. The largest factor is that Google is simply very, very trustworthy with their data protection regulations when it comes to protecting users' sign-up data. Also, their authentication mechanisms are quite bulletproof and have been tested for, I think, around almost 10 years. So this is definitely one of the most serious and most trusted authentication providers you can get to sign people up for your app and allow them to log in. So this is why we chose authentication on that side. Also, you may realize that we directly added a country check in our sign-up form, which has regulatory reasons, because there are a handful of jurisdictions where selling cryptocurrencies or tokens is not allowed at all, and we try to exclude that already in the beginning. So let's just jump to the next step. So what you see next is, I think all of you who have tried to participate in the Cadaico pre-sale have already seen that, is that we have a KYC, a so-called know your customer procedure, which is also regulatory reasons, because in most jurisdictions, including Germany, nowadays it is strictly prohibited to do any token sales, so to say, without knowing or verifying the identity of the customers that you are selling the tokens to. That has mainly anti-money laundering aspects, because basically governments want to make sure that no people, terrorists, criminals, whatever, try to launder money via the new cryptocurrency or new token that you are giving out. So this is why you definitely have to identify every customer so to say, who buys your new crypto token, that you have the full identity of them, have verified their data, and have also checked that they are not on any forbidden persons or countries lists, for example. And for that whole KYC, know your customer, or identity verification procedure, we chose to use SumSub. This is one of the largest KYC providers that is out there. They're based in the UK. And we have talked to a lot of other projects, have talked to both of our lawyers, and they have both recommended SumSub to be the most secure, so to say, or one of the most secure identity providers we could get, which is why we choose to integrate them into our application. We know definitely that it's a kind of a bothering process that you have to make a KYC, and it's not like in the good old times where you could just buy a crypto token without doing any verification whatsoever. But yeah, just please be assured that this is only due to regulatory reasons. And this is only a means that keeps Onino and all other projects that are our customers like Cadaico safe from a regulatory and compliance perspective. And yeah, just helps us to make sure that we follow all best practices when it comes to being legally compliant while conducting a token presale. But yeah, as you may have realized and already tried yourself, I personally think that the KYC procedure from SumSub is quite straightforward. It's quite easy. You can directly scan in your ID card, for example, directly from your phone, and the app, like the SumSub plugin, even allows you to switch between your laptop and your phone. So yeah, as you have seen, we have made our best to make the process as easy and not cumbersome as possible at all. Yeah, we hope that you like the KYC procedure so far, how we handled it. Also there, another information for you, what's going on behind the curtains. Here again, after the KYC procedure, we again check what the country of the person who wants to participate is. Although we have already asked for it in the first step, but this is just like a, so to say, second firewall, because in theory, like, people could tell us anything in the beginning, and could say, for example, that they are from Great Britain when they are actually from a country where crypto and tokens are forbidden. But then if you later realize that the country of origin of the person trying to participate, as verified by the SumSub KYC, is actually one of the forbidden countries, then we also stop the person right there to be 100% fully compliant on that side. Okay, let's just continue with the next one. Yeah, and then after you finish the KYC, you as a customer who wants to participate in presale has officially made it and can now select how you want to buy the, in this example, Cadaico tokens, CAD tokens, where we offer two options for you to choose. And let's just start with the well-known to all of you, the crypto token option. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it already. We offer that people can, so to say, buy the Cadaico token with existing cryptocurrency, so to say, in this case, BNB and Ethereum, as these are like the most used, or some of the most used chains in the ecosystem. And yeah, as you have seen, it's quite a comfortable UI in our opinion. Basically shows you how long the presale is still open, how much time you have left to contribute. We have also made it possible to, as I said, contribute in either BNB or Ethereum, whatever suits people who want to contribute best. And we have also added a feature that you can select either the amount of native cryptocurrency like BNB or ETH, or the amount of US dollar you want to contribute, because we thought it's kind of a pain to always go at CoinMarketCap and make some calculations on how many BNB you have to contribute when you want to actually spend $100. That's why we also integrate this automatic conversion and allow you guys to also enter the amount you want to participate in US dollars totally easily. The whole tech behind that is fully decentralized. This is only based on a fully decentralized smart contract stack. It is kind of similar to the pre-sale smart contracts that we at Onino used ourselves back then when we conducted our token pre-sale. But we have made some modifications and further improvements to ensure that the user experience and security of the smart contracts is definitely even improved further. But yeah, we have thought that we will also want to make it easy for people who are not native to the Web3 and crypto space to participate in the Cadaico token presale or in all of our customers presales, which is why we also integrated a second option to buy the token this time. We can just jump to the next slide. As you might have seen, we have already added another functionality that allows people to contribute to the token presale also with credit card. So yeah, as I said, behind that, the goal is that we also make it really, really accessible for people who are not yet in the crypto space to participate. I think that kind of aligns quite well with the mission that we want to bring blockchain into the real world, and that the tokenized fundraising customers we have right now are also real world projects who can have applications outside of the crypto space. So yeah, especially because of that, it's also very interesting for non-native crypto people to get in, and we want to make this onboarding process as easy as possible. So that's why we just kept it so simple. You can just select between US dollars and euros, just enter the amount you want to spend, then enter your wallet address. For all people who haven't got a wallet yet, we linked a really, really easy tutorial that helps you by creating your first crypto wallet down there. And then we have a very smooth and decent integration with Stripe, which is the by far largest payment provider in the world out there, where you basically have to simply enter your credit card details, just press on submit, and the buying of tokens was easy as that. So that was our little roundup on the Onino presale framework, the application that we are using to launch our tokenized fundraising customers presales on. If you just want to quickly jump to the last slide, you may ask yourselves now, what are we going to do with that in the future? So we kind of have a little internal roadmap on that so-called presale framework, this nice little application stack that we have here. So we definitely draw our learnings with each of the customers we have. So right now, Cadaico, our first customer, we already took a lot of learnings, what can be improved, gathered a lot of user feedback that can be improved, and directly added that to our base presale framework. And we are going to repeat that process with every further tokenized fundraising customer we have, so that basically every customer we have leads to even more and more improvements in our base framework, and we can continuously increase the quality of it. And what we also want to do, of course, in the long-term vision, is that we want to try to automate the whole process of this tokenized fundraising presale framework as much as possible, because you can kind of think of it, if you basically take all of that what we have just seen, like this whole logic, so to say, and abstract that one layer away, that basically everybody can sign up, so to say, to an application, and then create one of these pre-sales themselves, so to say, then you basically have a full-fledged launch pad, so to say. And this is definitely what we're going to aiming for in the future. We try to automate this whole process as much as possible, that in the future it's really going to be that people can, with a few clicks, set up their own pre-sale application like that, as we have just seen. And this in the long term should also serve as a sophisticated, I would say, project or user onboarding and go-to-market mechanism for the Onino blockchain in the long run. And if you have any questions on how we built the whole thing, if you want to know a bit more about the Onino presale framework, just let us know. Just DM me, write a message in the group. We're looking forward to answer your questions. And we hope that was a hopefully not too techy little insight for you guys.
Cool. Thank you very much, Kai. I think it's super interesting to see what we've built, and or especially Kai has built it. And through building it, we've noticed that many projects and many companies that have only one product have a similar or even less functions than what the presale framework has. So it's really nothing you should underestimate. It's a big achievement, and it's amazing to be able to do the sales ourselves without needing to rely on an external partner, a launchpad, or anything else. Which doesn't mean that we won't cooperate with them potentially, but having the ability to do it all on your domain, being legally compliant, totally waterproof, it's really an amazing achievement. So I think a very big applause to Kai in this case. And next up is tokenized fundraising, while we're at it. So there is some news here. And the first one, I think most of you have noticed, but if you haven't, the Cadaico presale has started. Cadaico, just as a reminder, is an AI company in the CAD, computer-aided design, and they are developing, on one hand, an AI assistant that assists designers and engineers in their programs to do less of the repetitive tasks because the AI takes over and people can focus on the creative task. And on the other hand, they're taking this AI to create a development platform so that many other developers can use this AI and develop their applications on it. And if you want to take part and participate in the presale, it's presale.cadai.co. They would be happy to have you there. I think it's an amazing project. We're really happy to be working with them. And yeah, I think it's great. If you want to take your chances, take a spot, you're free to do so. This is the link. And yeah, it's going to be open until approximately the end of September. If you want to join Telegram as well, it's t.me/Cadaico. Easy again. They would be happy to see you in the Telegram chat. And I think if you want to know more about Cadaico, the last and the one before the community update, we have gone into deeply what Cadaico does, what they are. Really amazing team. So if you want to know more about that, the community update from August and July, I think, will answer many of your questions if you have any. So another update, which we call the positioning update, which is coming soon, it's more from the marketing department. If you have a look at the market and blockchains, there's always two aspects. One is how you differentiate on a technical basis from other blockchains, what they do. And the other second layer, I would say, is the one where you differentiate on how do you approach the market? What is your blockchain for? What problem does it solve? Is it an industry-specific blockchain? All those things. And we've had a thorough look at how we position Onino at the moment. And as you know, we haven't had a website update for a long time. Our business white paper, although it has been updated a couple of times, now is soon going to be a year old again, I think. So it's been some time. And there will be some updates. An important thing to notice is that Onino is not changing what we're doing. If we change something, it's only that we're changing how we communicate it. And I think you're going to love the update regardless, because it's going to be a great update and it's going to be much more comprehensive because we talk to many people and not everyone always directly understands what Onino is, or maybe their understanding is not what we think we're doing. And we're trying to narrow it down as much as possible so that people, when they read our website, for example, they know exactly what we do and they have the same understanding of what we do as we intend to have it. So we're going to be updating the website first, the white paper, I think, later down the road. And there's no official timing here, but just for you to know, there will be some updates at some point, and I think it's going to be cool. So if you want to know more, stay updated, join the newsletter, stay active in the community, and listen to our monthly community updates. You'll be the first to know and not miss out. Another one is upcoming events. Just want to give you a little update about what's going to be happening in the next month or months. Just following this community update in 1.5 hours approximately. Don't know what time it is exactly. Yeah, pretty much 1.5 hours at 10 p.m. Central Eastern Standard Summertime. There's going to be an AMA with Crypto Griffins, and Cadaico is going to be there as well. And on the 7th of September, we're going to be in Berlin. There's going to be a meeting with some potential venture capitalists, etc. If you happen to be in Berlin, you may see us, but Berlin is big. And we're not going to be there for a long time, unfortunately, only for this evening. And in November, we're going to be the Web Summit. I think this is a pretty big thing. We're going to be the whole 3 days going to be there. So if any of you is visiting the Web Summit, we may, now that I'm saying it, we could do a get-together. Who knows? If some of you are visiting the Web Summit, let us know. And if enough, do that. We'd be super happy to get to know you in person. We've met some people in person. It's always amazing to meet you in person. So if you're visiting the Web Summit, let us know, and we'll be doing a Onino get-together if enough people join. If not, then let's just get a coffee or a beer. Sounds good as well. So again, I just mentioned it, the newsletter. Sign up here, newsletter.onino.io, and you'll be the first to get any news in a condensed form if you want to. And a little update on hiring again. We're looking for 2 positions at the moment. And if you know anyone that is a blockchain architect and protocol developer, feel free to hit us up. And the same thing for sales, marketing, and community building talent, we call it. Someone that just great in building up communities in marketing and sales. This position and the blockchain architect position are positions we're looking to fill at the moment. And now is question time. And let's jump right into the tokenized fundraising questions. I'm going to read them and I'm going to give you the answer, and I hope I answer them well. If I don't, feel free to just ask the same question again in the chat later, and I'm sure we'll give you, or I hope we'll give you an answer that makes you happy. So first question is, are all those 5 projects customers of 2023 startups, or are there some more established companies getting tokenized as well? As Cadaico still has some years to build, it's more long-term for the Oni graph. Will there be onboarded projects with immediate use of the Oni graph as well? So the projects that you have heard of so far, Cadaico, for example, are startups indeed. But there is one, the next one, that we can't talk about as of yet, which is an existing company with a working product already. I think most of the projects that we have at the moment are young. Some are really startups at a very early stage. Some already have a product, which doesn't mean that there will be more established companies. So we're definitely tailoring this with a focus on young companies because it just fits so well. But if there is a company that has an established product that works and that wants to expand and do something new, tokenized fundraising can work there as well. So it's not focused only on young companies. There is a tendency to young companies, but not all of them are in the startup stage. And one that I have in mind, I can talk to you with you about it at the moment, but we will be announcing them sooner rather than later, most likely in the next community update. Next question is, when will we hear more information about the 4 other projects? Can we at least know if any are close to being ready to reveal themselves or better at launch? In your opinion, are any of the other projects more exciting than even Cadaico? More exciting than even Cadaico? Cadaico is indeed exciting, and the others are very different. All of them are very different, and I wouldn't even be able to say one is more exciting than the others. All have huge potential, and it's really great working with all of them, and it's an amazing opportunity for us to work with them. You will hear more information once we can talk about them. You have heard about a couple others here and there, and we will go more into depth about those that you haven't heard yet. It's always a thing of contracts and NDAs, and those companies may have investors which are the reason that they can't talk about specific things. So the more you get into work with other companies, sometimes you just can't talk about anything at every moment. So we hope you understand. We don't want to breach any contracts. It's very important to us to have a trustworthy relationship. So we'll talk to you about those companies once we can, but we can't at this point. So next one is marketing. First question is, with the testnet around the corner, there is a real need for marketing. There will be many more users than there are currently active community members to stress test the Oni graph. When exactly will marketing begin? Because many other projects in the same situation have marketed months, sometimes even longer beforehand. For that, like you saw on the earlier slide, we are at the moment looking to hire someone to facilitate the stepping up of branding, community building game. There's just so many things that we need to do. And with Kai, Lucas, Erdal, and I, we have a rather small team. I think we still do pretty well with what we do. And it's just something that at this moment isn't the biggest focus, but we're convinced that we will do enough marketing once time is due. And the testnet doesn't mean that we need to have thousands of people right from the start. It can be built up, and we'll have more and more people once we need more and more people. And I'm convinced that what we're doing is tailor-made to the technology we have, which is why it may be different to other projects. Everyone tests on their own strategy. But we'll be ramping up efforts and transitioning over the next quarter with a lot more information being released regarding the testnet, like Lucas said, in blog articles and more things. So next one is there a decent allocation for marketing? Can you reveal the allocation to us or the total value that will be put into marketing? I think this one is there 2 times. Lucas, is that right? I think you have that one as well on your finances slide.
Yes, I guess we can skip that one for now, and I'll answer.
Okay, I'll skip that one, and Lucas is going to answer that. That's a copy and paste error from my side. The next one is, what types of marketing will you do? It needs to be more than just paying some influencers to shill the Onino network, unless those people are passionate and will continue to be ambassadors. As often you find they do one small post and that's it. Paid platform advertisements such as Twitter or X, Facebook, Instagram, etc. News articles of prominent news sources like Forbes and more crypto-related forums, YouTube videos, content in general, influencers, competitions, or news, airdrops for testing the network, etc. would all be good, and I'm sure there are many other forms of marketing that could be considered. Also consider competitions for creating content such as infographics that the community can make and then be circulated. You mentioned many things there. And Yeah, you pointed out most of them. There are a couple others. I'm not going to start naming all of them. We'll do what is tailored to the goal. And we'll do a mix of all of them. There will be some of what you described, some of others as well. Another thing that I want to touch on is partnerships, because there may be current partners or future potential investors of Onino, investors of the company, the token holders, and not to be confused. And some of them can be great multiplicators because they have a network themselves, which they can then help do marketing in their network, or even talk to specific companies that they know will be beneficial for Onino. And additionally to the normal marketing, we'll do this as well, because I think our partnerships are really strong, and the ones coming up as well. A couple of them we can't talk about yet, and I think those are going to be big levers for great marketing. And I hope that answers the questions. Next one is, do you plan to attend any public speeches through Bitkom? And we have attended some speeches already, most of them online. And if you meant by this, if we are going to be holding some speeches at some point, most likely, once we have a working product and we want to put it out there and position it to the world. At the moment, as we don't have a finished product, we're not doing that. But at some point, there's a high probability we'll do that. And last question is, what will your intense marketing look like? I think this doubles the big question from above, and I hope this answered the question enough. Next up is finances.
Yes, thank you, Alex. I will take over from here. I will just go ahead and read out the questions and then give the answer from my side. So the first question is, can you give your reasoning behind giving out tokens for loyalty locked pools when there is a capped supply? Which section of the supply are these loyalty rewards coming from? Would these tokens not better be used to actually reward validators who provide something for the network, as there are a limited amount of tokens? Is it not a waste to give them out for nothing? It's a really great question, or to put it into other words, a load of questions here. To give a little bit of context, this is directly focused on the pre-validator staking, how we call it, that is currently going on through our website, which can be considered some kind of creating an engagement with the community and getting people engaged in general. The core of the question, how I see it, is more tailored towards how sound are our tokenomics and how sound is the issuance of Oni token in the long run, to still being able to create enough incentives for validators to secure the network, as these validators are most of the times reimbursed through giving out the native coin of the network they are validating and securing. So essentially, as many of you know, we simply conducted a public token sale, and thus the coins that are circulating were quite low. And for us, what we've done in the past few months and the years since we launched is a means for us to increase this amount of Oni that is already accessible to the market. And this is fully built into our tokenomic system, as we want to basically kind of issue more token and don't want to issue something through like others have done it, through kind of VC deals that are over the counter, and thus having more tokens circulating in theory, but having one single entity controlling all of this. And that is our way to basically increase what is out there in the market, which leads to more stability further down the road. And it's all basically calculated into our tokenomics. And this is why we don't see this as giving it out for nothing. It's more preparation for the release of our network. And then this is a direct turnover to the next question, which is kind of going into the same direction. I know it was stated that rewards for validators come from fees within the network. Do you really think this will provide enough incentive? There are also an amount of tokens set aside for rewards initially, as I believe. So once they have run out, will there be enough generated from fees to sufficiently reward and provide incentives for validators? according to our calculations, we see the allocations we have set initially in our tokenomics as sufficient. Of course, there are some pools, especially the company treasure, which could be used to reimburse validators further if the incentives which are generated through the fees are not big enough. Still, there has to be seen that there is quite a correlation between the consumption of energy or the power consumption and the fees generated, which leads from our calculation leads to the conclusion that we will be having enough incentives based in our native coin to basically incentivize and reimburse any validator that will be performing any validation for the Oni graph itself. And as I mentioned, if we run into any shortages, there are still unused pools in terms of our tokenomic allocation that we could draw from, but that is nothing we are planning on, as we believe our calculations are sound and we will see how things turn out. The next question is, where can I see financials of the team? I understand this can be a private matter, but it would be a great confidence booster to the community to know you guys are capable and able to afford the development, and bigger team to see the project through and see the roadmap completed. We as a team do understand where this question is coming from, especially it's coming from a standpoint where, mostly in the current market environment, it is indeed, or might indeed be, a great confidence booster to get more, let's say, proof of financials behind the project and things like that. But there are more things to sharing any financials publicly than might be visible at the first glance, especially when it comes for us as a company in terms of being protective of the information, of the confidential information we give out, and also going into talks with further partners, customers, and also potential further investors in the future, which is why we as a team do not release any financial statements publicly other than what we are required to release from a regulatory point of view, which is why we hope that you understand that we can't give any concrete numbers, release any statements in regards to that, as this will significantly impact our strategic positioning in terms of how we get into talks with any partners we want to engage with. And these are just some informations we cannot share publicly. Going on to the next question is, will there come more sales for the Oni token, or do you have enough funds to build and complete the chain now? Currently, we have not planned any additional sales of the Oni token. On the one hand, it is something we do not see as feasible in the current circumstances, and is something we do not want to actually engage with in a big matter, because having any kind of sales of token in general leads to artificial behaviors of the essential price of any coin or token out there, which is why this is nothing we have planned right now for the months to come. The next question is there a decent allocation for the marketing? Can you reveal the allocation to us, or the total value that will be put into marketing? As I've touched on before in a previous question, we cannot reveal any concrete numbers. It would be the same as us revealing our financial plan and the whole complete business plan to a potential investor or something. We cannot reveal that to the whole public, as that is just not strategically feasible for us. But I can give you a little bit more context on what we want to achieve with our marketing in the coming months, especially leading up to the upcoming releases we will be having. So essentially, we want to increase the capabilities within our team, hiring specifically for the marketing, and hiring experts in that field. And with that, we want to kickstart organic marketing rather than artificial marketing, to say so. So growing organically, growing at a steady pace rather than inflating any numbers on our socials and inflating the numbers of community members. We want to grow organically, and we also want to expand our marketing in a way that we can attract different communities, because at the start of a project, it's always great to have supporters behind the vision of a project. And once we get closer to launching our platform, which you can say in theory, a blockchain network is nothing else than a decentralized platform that can host applications, which is why for us the development community will be much more important going forward in the coming quarters. And this is something we will be specifically targeting, getting developers on board who can directly give us feedback on the state of our network, directly give us feedback for our tools and software development kits, and they then help us to further increase our efforts in just building the best network to onboard developers out there. And these are all things we wanted to achieve with our marketing. And I believe it's always better to talk about the goal of an initiative rather than showing any proofs about a allocation, because doing or trying to achieve the wrong goal with a huge allocation will eventually lead to much worse outcomes than trying to just strategically achieve the right goal. And we are set on achieving the set goal. Currently, the biggest roadblock for us is getting more manpower on the team for that is directly handling marketing itself. And now the next and last question in terms of finances and tokens is a quite simple one. Do you know who the person that locked 500,000 tokens? And we can simply answer this as no, we don't. We don't monitor everything around what is happening with the Onino token, and we are much more focusing on building the network and building out our basically code base rather than monitoring what's going on with the token. So we can't give you any information there, even if you would have wanted us to tell you any insights on that. Right, and that being said, we will now directly transition over to the next part of the questions. There were quite a few questions in regards to the development and the OniGraph itself, and I will just go ahead with the first one. Are you also aiming to build a launchpad for the OniGraph to get more adoption once live? Whether we will build a fully fledged out launchpad is yet to be seen, but essentially this is one of the potential D-apps and also one of the onboarding mechanisms we are working towards with what we're doing right now with our tokenization in general. So whether it will be a fully fledged out launchpad is to be seen, but this is on one hand why we have built such a great pre-sale framework and why we are gathering so much experience, as this is always a great onboarding mechanism for new applications and especially new developers and just people who want to build something. But yes, if it will be a fully fledged launchpad is to be seen.
Yeah, thanks, Lucas. I'm just gonna take over the next one. It's actually two questions in one. I'm just gonna answer all of them after each other. Let's just start with the first one, or like the first part question. What do you want to build on the OniGraph after the chain is finished? It's a very good question. Everything. No, just kidding. Yeah, we basically see just three pillars, what we are doing, so to say, or what are our focuses after the initial version of the OniGraph of the Onino network has been launched. So on the one hand, and that is a bit separate from the rest, there is, of course, naturally continuous improvement of the network. So we will not be stopping until we have implemented every single feature that we can think of in our blockchain. So this will definitely be an ongoing task for our entire development team, continuously improve the network also after the first version has been launched. And then from a product side, from a use case side, so to say, we also have kind of two pillars, so to say. So on the one hand, we're definitely going to continue our tokenized fundraising projects that we are doing already right now, in order to gain more traction on the network. And I myself see that kind of as two things, so to say, like the tokenized fundraising projects are mostly projects that use the blockchain in order to implement a token that is tokenized, so to say, into their business model. And then on the other hand, we're also planning to build or to tackle smart contract-based use cases. For example, by making pilot projects with real-world companies and industry partners that we have. And in this case, so right now, the sentiment that we currently feel with companies and also when reading market reports is that the go-to-market use case for that could be quite promising SCM, supply chain management, because that is currently a hotly discussed topic to implement blockchain in these kind of applications. So just to sum it up, we're planning with basically two features, so to say, the token-based use cases, so to say, where we continue with tokenized fundraising customers, where the value comes from the token, so to say, that is used, and the smart contract-based use cases, where we work together with industry companies, where the value basically lies in implementing business logic or storage on the blockchain. So hope there was quite a few roundup on what is going on after the launch of the first version. Then the second part of the question, will there be a way for the students of Karlsruhe, I think you're referring to our home university, Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, to build their bachelor or master projects on the OniGraph? Would be cool for easy applications, and they can then continue to build on them and expand after they've graduated. That's a very cool idea. I really love that you guys are thinking along so much and even integrate our alma mater into this. It's actually very funny because we have internally talked about the idea quite often. And as some of you may know, we have already actually made a hackathon once with KIT together, where we built a little decentralized identity smart contract solution. So yeah, we're definitely already tapping into the academic network that we have here in Karlsruhe. I mean, it may not be the most beautiful city out there, but we have this great university here. We're definitely making use of that. We just can't already guarantee that we will be actually be counseling any bachelor's or master's thesis. Because to do so, we from Onino would basically have to provide a, so to say, supervisor that basically supervises the bachelor's or master's thesis from Onino's side, together with a supervisor from the university. That's always how it goes. You have the one from the university, the one from the company, which basically share the role of the supervisor. And right now, we cannot guarantee that we have the personal capabilities to spend that much time. And also, it may be questionable if it's, so to say, worth to spend our time if there's in ratio with the so to say, network traffic, network adoption that this will bring in the future. But what, on the other hand, I can tell you is that we are definitely, or considering for the future, is that we are making seminar thesis or hackathons, as we have already done before, because that just has requires a lot less effort from our side, and can also bring very cool results in the end. I mean, it also has a lot faster iterations, so to say. I mean, seminars that you can do probably take between 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. And hackathons is most times only 1 week. And this, I think, in both of these formats, students also have the chance to get an insight into the OniGraph and develop something on it or develop an MVP on it in quite easy time. That still brings a lot of value. And if it works, the MVP that they're building in the course of these university projects, we will definitely support them along the way with knowledge, but then maybe even some sponsoring to continue to work on the OniGraph. But yeah, bachelor's and master's thesis, we can't guarantee right now just because they have an immensely high effort that we would have to put in from the side. Hope that answered the question quite okay for you. Then we have another rather use case focused question that I would like to take on. Would it be possible or beneficial to store databases from Web2 applications on the OniGraph in order to keep them more secure against hackers, etc.? Or does it need to be a Web3 application built on the OniGraph with a Web2 front end, so to say? So yeah, that definitely fully depends on the type of data you want to store. If it's only rather simple binary data, you could definitely do that. If you have any larger data, like for example, images, video files, whatever, then definitely blockchains have drawbacks compared to traditional Web2 databases, just because storage is quite expensive on current blockchains, and even on a blockchain which is tailored to be cost efficient, like the OniGraph, this is still going to be expensive, so to say. after a certain file size or data size has been exceeded, or even if it's not really expensive compared to traditional database, it will be more expensive. So yeah, that definitely on the one hand depends on the type of data, and on the other hand, on the use case that you have, right? Like how much data you want to store, in which frequencies, how often does it have to be read or write? So yeah, it totally depends on the, so to say, entire data architecture that your application is based on. But yeah, what we can definitely say, putting full databases with very frequent read and write operations, and always like large data types like images, is probably currently not the best idea you can get. But there's another approach, which we also made some thoughts about internally, and it's also quite upcoming, so to say. And this approach, which is better suited in my opinion, is called data integrity validation, which means you don't store your entire database directly on the blockchain, just because of the storage and cost efficiency reasons I just talked about. But you rather store a reference, so to say, to your database in order to validate its integrity against your blockchain, so to say. We can make a little example for that. Don't want to elaborate too long on that, but just give a little quick example. Some of you may know what hashes are. This is widely often used in blockchains, like all of the data used in blockchains are mostly hashes. You can imagine a hash like a machine, a mathematical machine, and I can put any type of data in it, and it gives me out some weird twisted string in the end, string of characters that always has a fixed length. And if I would change a little teeny little bit the data that I put in this machine, this hash that comes out in the end would totally differ. So these machines are, so to say, trained to make it easy for you to detect any changes in data. And what we could now possibly do is also something we've made a little proof of concept for. You can create a hash, so to say, using that machine I just talked about, of each entry in your database, or maybe even a graph or a subpartition of the database, and store that hash, like this minified, compromised version, together with the ID in the database directly on the blockchain. And then when you would want to use that data later on, you can then hash it again, put it again through that machine, see what comes out, compare that with the hash that is stored on the blockchain for that data point. And thereby you could easily check if somebody has been tampering with your data, or it could be, for example, a PDF, even if a single pixel has been faked and to I don't know, mock any signings on the PDF, that would easily be recognizable. So that is called, in general, data integrity or data validation, which is also quite an interesting use case that we are currently exploring, and are definitely looking into more detail after the first version of our blockchain has been launched. Hope that was a good little insight. Yeah, for the next question, which goes right straight back into the theory, I would just pass the ball back to Lucas.
Yes, thank you. It's a long question. I will read it out fully for the people who will be listening without the presentation, and then go into more detail individually. Many blockchains utilize DAGs to process their transactions, but not their ledgers. In other words, they are not a true DAG-based ledger. Blockchains within this camp include Phantom and LF0. On the other hand, current projects utilizing a directed acyclic graph-based ledger operate according to proof of stake. Thus, they are less secure with a security threshold of 33% compared to 50%. These projects include Avalanche, Xchain, and Sui. According to this, we would fall into the above category and cannot class ourselves as a block DAG. Will we eventually move towards block DAG, or should we be saying we are a DAG blockchain or DAG hybrid rather than a block DAG? There's so much to unpack in this question. For context, when we talk about blockchains, we often classify them into a few categories. So the first category will be the more traditional blockchain we know of, which in theory is also a DAG, but it's a one-dimensional DAG, you could say. So it's just a chain that connects blocks together in simple terms. Then we have DAG-based consensus, which is used to facilitate a blockchain. They are using a DAG structure to more efficiently handle their transactions and them finding consensus, and then putting this all in a chain-like structure. And then the other one is a fully DAG-based ledger that is not only using a directed acyclic graph structure for facilitating consensus, but facilitating the whole data structure and of their whole transaction tree and the whole ledger in itself. And then the fourth and most newly upcoming class is the class of block DAGs, which is essentially a DAG that is formed out of interconnected blocks. And where we fit into this category is more of a complicated answer, because we aim to, or let me start with what we aim to achieve is basically putting up a network that can host individual layer ones. So essentially a protocol which enables developers to spin up their own layer ones on top of our network. And this is where things get complicated. Currently, every application layer or layer one that developers will be able to deploy as of our current tech stack is fully built around DAG-based consensus facilitation. So it can be more comparable to the likes of LF0. But we also have this protocol which is essentially running beneath all of the layer ones. And this is where we are setting on a fully DAG-based ledger to facilitate the global state root validation. And going forward or going further, we want to actually achieve to make an adaptable stack of software tools for developers to deploy their layer ones according to the parameters and the needs they have for the applications run on this layer one. So essentially, initially, we want to achieve offering either a DAG-based consensus or fully DAG-based ledger. And further on, if proof of work based block DAGs prove to be efficient not only for currency handling, but also for applications, depending on the developments which are going forward in that field, we might even look into hosting development tools that can facilitate a software kit to deploy a block DAG. But this is currently out of scope. So we're currently focusing more on DAGs to facilitate consensus on the individual layers and a fully DAG-based ledger to facilitate the global state root validation. So in our other words, to answer the last part of the question, you can still mostly consider us as a DAG hybrid rather than a block DAG. Then transitioning over to the next question, which is directly related to block DAGs, as the way I see it is, would it be beneficial for scalability to look at block DAG technologies such as GhostDAG and Ignite? I believe that's a question from a big fan of upcoming network that is based on block DAGs, a proof of work implementation, or many people call it the next step to the initial Nakamoto consensus. We have actually taken a look at the GhostDAG protocol initially when we started conceptualizing our architecture, and there's like some things we have in common. For example, concepts such as the parameterization to control like tolerance level of the overall blockchain consensus facilitation and block rate to accommodate higher throughputs. But in general, there's still yet to be proven how good the proof of work implementation of the block DAGs will function, especially when they allow application onboarding and go beyond just facilitation of currency transfers. Because for decentralized finance, it may be true that the scalability as paired with the security block DAGs offer may be groundbreaking, but our focus lies much more on industry-specific use cases, which go way beyond currency transfers and transfer of value, which is why we have taken some parts which are basically can be found in many blockchain networks out there and in many technological implementations. But the key concept of proof of work-based block DAGs is something we are always looking at, but we are yet to see enough proof to base any implementation we will be doing in the future on it. And then, hoping that I answered this to a good extent, I will transition to the last question on that slide. What is your vision and goal of the Onigraph in terms of reputation? For example, some chains are known for memes, scams, while having high speed and low fees, or for example, the metaverse and attracting many metaverse applications on-chain. What are we at Onino trying to do in order to prevent scams on our network, or can anyone that wants to build on the network build what they want? So the general vision of the Onigraph, of course, is to be a fully permissionless ledger, so that the ledger can accommodate anyone that wants to build an application of any sort they can think of. Of course, we do have to put some measures in place to not only keep up a good image for the whole protocol itself, but also to basically secure any user that will be operating or will be acting on our network. So on the one hand, we are planning to introduce economic incentives that rather do not basically prevent people from building scams or doing things just for the meme, but more incentivize people to build more attractive D-apps and creators to achieve a sustainable business and build a sustainable business logic on the Onigraph, such as there are concepts of fee sharing, like sharing a certain part of transaction fees once an application reaches a threshold of monthly transactions submitted through the D-app. And these are all more positively aligned incentives we want to create to increase the attractiveness for people that want to build meaningful and applications which have an impact and which have a quite reoccurring user base. And then another measure we will be actively engaging is mostly targeted towards developers that will be building their own application layers on top of the Onigraph, rather than D-app developers, which is that we initially we will be limiting the intake of new layers on top of our protocol to us conducting internal assessments of the teams, of their goals, and of what they want to achieve before we open this up to a full public development kit, to say so, where anyone can, in theory, deploy something. So you can see our strategy is basically focused on two things: positively incentivizing good and meaningful applications, and then on the other hand, limiting and basically making internal assessments for everyone that wants to run an application built on their own native layer one, because that has much bigger impacts than just an application, because there are validators in play and they have to build up their own subset of validators essentially, which makes it much more complicated if you have bad actors that also want to operate in layer one. I hope I answered this to a good extent. And with that, I believe we are at the end of the prepared questions we had in beforehand from our community, if I'm not mistaken.
We are. So now I would say is the live segment. Have there been any questions? I think the next slide is a thank you. Exactly. We're looking forward to your questions. So
the last GIF is great.
You're
not alone there, Kenny Jesus. I have that sometimes as well.
Yes, there were really great questions this month in the community update.
Yeah, it's been a long one already.
Yeah, quite long one, with some quite long questions too. But that shows that the community is caring and that they are really interested in what we're doing. So already looking forward to the next one with even better questions. But I see Neil typing, so we might be getting one live question in a few seconds.
Okay. Niels, my brain is running warm now. Not sure if I can think of any questions. Will you add a pitch deck for the community to reach out to potential customers and companies as well? I like the idea. Why not? Definitely. I think we'll have something under resources on the website, and this will be usable for press, for anyone interested, and for the community as well. So if we forget it amongst all the things that we do at some point, definitely remind us. But I think we'll do that. That's a very good idea. And pitch deck is only a condensed form of what, for example, is on the website or the business white paper. So you can always use that as well.
Yes, and I believe a big answer to this will be the major repositioning we will be doing, as also on all our channels, starting with the website and ending with our socials, where we'll be directly basically focusing the ideal target partner or target company we want to be hosting on the network, and that will also include several, you could say, case studies conducted on different industry use cases. So I believe that will be the right time once that repositioning is launched and is public, to reach out to any interested company or partner out there.
No one's typing, no more questions, apart from Kai. I don't think Kai has a question for us. I think that's been it. I think we've gathered many questions throughout the month, and we may have answered enough or too many. It's been a long time. So I would say thank you very much for listening. Thank you for all your questions. And that's it from Onino. Over and out, and see you next month.
Thank you all for joining, everybody. Have a good evening, and see you next month.
Have a great evening.